She had always been quiet, the kind of person people often overlooked. In a busy world where loud voices and confident gestures got attention, she moved in the opposite direction. She preferred to observe, to notice details that others missed. Her hands were steady, her eyes sharp, and there was a patience in her that some called unusual. She spent hours at the local shooting range, practicing with a focus that seemed almost unnatural. Every shot was measured, every movement calculated. Yet despite her skill, few knew of her dedication. People often assumed she was just another beginner, someone who was there to pass time or explore a hobby. But she knew otherwise. This was more than a hobby. It was a calling. On an ordinary morning, the range was buzzing with the usual crowd. People chatting loudly, targets clanging as bullets hit them, and the smell of gunpowder lingering in the air. She stood apart, quiet and composed, setting up her own station. Her movements were precise, almost ritualistic. She checked her rifle, adjusted the sights, and took a deep breath before every shot. Around her, others were showing off, taking quick shots, laughing, and trying to impress each other. She ignored them. Her eyes were on the target, her mind completely focused. It was then that he noticed her. A retired sniper, known in his time as one of the most skilled marksmen in the country, had come to the range quietly. He was tall with an air of calm authority. His eyes had seen years of experience, and his presence carried a silent weight. He had heard rumors of a young woman at this range with extraordinary precision, someone whose reputation had grown quietly among a few who had noticed her. Today he wanted to see for himself. He watched as she took aim, her posture perfect, her breathing controlled. She fired, and the shot hit the target dead center. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing. He waited for the next shot. Again, perfection. There was something different about her, something that set her apart from the others who visited the range. He had seen many with talent, but this was not just talent. It was discipline, focus, and a calm that only a few possessed. It was rare she didn't notice him at first. Her mind was in the moment, calculating, adjusting for wind, and perfecting every detail. When the targets began to blur for others, she remained steady. Her mentor-to-be took a step closer, finally making his presence known. "You have a good eye," he said quietly. She looked up, startled. The sudden voice had interrupted her flow, but she didn't flinch. Her calmness remained, even as she assessed the stranger. He introduced himself, and they talked briefly about her approach, her habits, and her mindset. He asked questions that made her think deeply, not just about shooting, but about patience, observation, and the psychology of focus. He was testing her, seeing if she was not only skilled with her hands, but disciplined in her mind. Most people would have been intimidated, but she felt a quiet curiosity. She wanted to learn, to improve, and she recognized that this man had knowledge far beyond what she could find in books or online tutorials. Over the next few weeks, they began to meet in secret. The training was not what she expected. It was not about quick shots or flashy skills. It was about understanding the subtle movements of the rifle, the effects of weather, the position of the target, and the mental state required to stay calm under pressure. Her mentor pushed her, but always in a way that made her think and improve. He made her notice details she had overlooked and challenged her patience and concentration. She faced difficulties she had never imagined. Some days her shots were off by a fraction of an inch and she felt frustrated. She wanted instant perfection, but her mentor reminded her that true skill was built over time. He shared stories of his own failures, the mistakes that taught him more than any success ever could. She began to understand that every miss was a lesson, every frustration a chance to grow. Slowly, she learned to embrace the process, to find value in persistence rather than instant results. Outside the training, she carried these lessons into her daily life. She noticed small details others missed. She could read the emotions of people around her, understand the shifts in energy in a room, and anticipate reactions. Her focus in shooting began to reflect in her interactions, her thinking, and even her movements in simple tasks. People still underestimated her, but she didn't mind. She was building something that no one could see, a foundation of skill and character that would eventually reveal itself in a way that would surprise everyone. The bond between her and her mentor grew quietly. He respected her dedication and her ability to absorb knowledge without complaint. She respected his experience and the way he pushed her beyond her perceived limits. There were moments of silence that spoke volumes where no words were necessary, and understanding passed between them. He taught her not just to aim, but to think, to anticipate, and to remain calm no matter the chaos around her. Weeks turned into months, and her progress was remarkable. Her shots became more precise, her movements more controlled, and her mind sharper. She could analyze a situation quickly, make calculated decisions, and execute them flawlessly. The mentor saw the transformation and knew she was ready for more advanced challenges, ones that would truly test her skills in ways most could not imagine. Yet the world outside remained unaware. To everyone else, she was just another young woman at the range, quiet, unassuming, and often overlooked. One day, her mentor decided it was time to introduce a more challenging test. He asked her to aim at small moving targets, to adjust for unpredictable conditions, and to make decisions in fractions of seconds. She felt the pressure, but it was different now. Her confidence had grown, built on months of disciplined training and experience. She focused on her breathing, her posture, and her mindset, remembering every lesson her mentor had taught her. With each shot, she adjusted, learned, and improved. She began to realize the depth of her own potential. The skills she had honed were not just about shooting. They were about patience, observation, and self-discipline. She could remain calm in stressful situations, think clearly, and act decisively. The mentor watched with quiet pride, knowing that the young woman he had chosen to train had become something exceptional. The quiet student had transformed into a focused, disciplined marksman, ready for challenges that lay ahead. As she left the range one evening, the sun setting behind the hills, she felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. The training had changed her, not just in skill, but in how she viewed herself and the world around her. She walked home with a quiet determination, knowing that the path ahead would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. But she was ready. She had the training, the mindset, and the mentor's guidance to face whatever came next, and she knew that one day the world would see the results of her dedication. Though for now she kept it all a secret, hidden behind her quiet demeanor and steady hands. The days after her first private sessions with the retired sniper were filled with both excitement and exhaustion. She found herself waking up before the sun, her mind already replaying every lesson, every small adjustment she had learned. Even simple tasks reminded her of the discipline she needed to maintain. She noticed the little things, how her heartbeat changed under stress, the sway of the rifle when she didn't stand perfectly, the subtle shift of light as the day moved. Every detail mattered, and she was learning to pay attention to them all. Her mentor's approach was different from anything she had experienced. He did not rush her or push her recklessly. Instead, he emphasized patience, observation, and self-awareness. They would spend hours at the range, not just firing bullets, but analyzing her stance, breathing, and mental state. Sometimes they wouldn't fire a single shot for hours. They would simply observe targets, discuss angles, or practice controlling their emotions. She found it strange at first, but over time, she began to understand that shooting was only half of the skill. The other half was the mind. At home, she kept a small notebook, jotting down observations, measurements, and lessons. Each entry reflected her growth and the meticulous nature of her training. She tracked even minor improvements, like how her breathing steadied after a stressful day, or how her focus sharpened when she faced distractions. She began to realize that true skill was not in moments of brilliance, but in consistent effort and attention to detail. The training was not easy. Some days she felt discouraged. A shot would miss its mark, or she would miscalculate distance, and the frustration would weigh heavily on her. Her mentor, however, never allowed her to dwell on failure. Instead, he encouraged her to analyze mistakes calmly, to see them as opportunities for learning. He would remind her that even the best snipers in history had failed many times before achieving perfection. She started to internalize this mindset, learning to be patient with herself, to keep trying even when progress seemed slow. One afternoon, the mentor introduced a new challenge. He set up a series of moving targets, each at different distances and speeds. The task was not simply to hit them, but to anticipate their movement, calculate trajectory, and adjust for wind and elevation. It was one of the most difficult exercises she had encountered. Her first attempts were imperfect, her shots falling short or missing entirely. She felt the familiar sting of frustration, but she took a deep breath and remembered her mentor's words. Slowly, she began to adjust, noting patterns, timing her shots, and learning to predict movements. By the end of the session, she was hitting more targets than she had ever imagined possible. As the weeks went by, her skills improved dramatically. She became more confident, yet she remained humble. The lessons of patience and focus were ingrained in her, shaping not only her shooting but her way of thinking. She could remain calm under pressure, make calculated decisions, and anticipate outcomes. Her mentor observed these changes with quiet satisfaction, knowing that her growth was more than just physical skill. It was mental mastery. The training was not only about shooting. Her mentor introduced exercises that tested her mind and reflexes in unconventional ways. Sometimes they practiced in complete silence, relying only on observation and intuition. Other times he would create distractions like sudden noises or unexpected movements to see how she would react. The purpose was to strengthen her ability to remain composed, to focus on the essentials, and to ignore irrelevant stimuli. She began to notice that these exercises were preparing her for real-world scenarios, teaching her to stay calm and precise, no matter the chaos around her. Her personal life also began to change. Friends and family noticed a quiet confidence in her that hadn't been there before. She was more patient, more aware, and strangely composed even in stressful situations. People still underestimated her abilities, but she didn't mind. She was building something far more important than recognition. She was developing a skill set that required discipline, focus, and resilience. Every small improvement brought her closer to the goal she had not fully articulated, but that she knew would one day define her. One evening, after a long day of training, her mentor spoke to her about the importance of preparation and observation. He explained that a sniper's skill was not measured by the number of perfect shots, but by the ability to understand the environment, anticipate challenges, and execute with precision when it mattered most. He shared stories from his own past, describing missions where patience and observation had made the difference between success and failure. She listened intently, absorbing every word, realizing that these lessons applied far beyond the shooting range. There were moments of quiet reflection, too. She would sit alone after training, thinking about how far she had come and what lay ahead. The discipline she had developed gave her a sense of control and clarity she had never known. She felt a growing respect for the craft, for the dedication it required, and for the people who had mastered it before her. Each session with her mentor was a reminder that true skill was a combination of practice, patience, and understanding, a lesson she intended to carry forward in everything she did. Her mentor also began teaching her subtle techniques that were easy to overlook, but crucial in high-level marksmanship. He showed her how to read the smallest movements, how to anticipate shifts in the environment, and how to remain perfectly still even when the world around her was chaotic. These lessons were challenging, often requiring extreme patience and concentration, but she embraced them wholeheartedly. Each small victory reinforced her confidence and deepened her respect for the art. The training sessions became a rhythm, a part of her life she could not imagine living without. She woke with purpose, practiced with focus, and reflected with intention. Her mentor occasionally introduced scenarios that tested her limits, making her adapt quickly, think critically, and act decisively. She learned to trust her instincts, to remain calm under pressure, and to rely on the knowledge and skills she had cultivated over months of dedication. Her progress did not go unnoticed by the few who had observed her quietly. Other shooters began to whisper about her skill, though most remained skeptical. They saw a young woman who did not boast or seek attention, yet her shots were increasingly accurate, precise, and almost eerily consistent. Her mentor never allowed her to be distracted by praise or skepticism. He reminded her that the world would eventually recognize her, but the true reward was the mastery she had built within herself. One particularly challenging day, he asked her to perform a task that required both physical and mental precision. A small spinning target was placed at a difficult distance, and she was given only a few seconds to calculate trajectory and wind adjustment. She felt the pressure rise, but she closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and visualized every step. When she opened her eyes, she executed the shot flawlessly. The target reacted perfectly, as if her bullet had been guided by her focus and calculation alone. Her mentor nodded silently, proud of her progress, but he knew this was just the beginning. By the end of these secret months, she had transformed. Her skills were no longer just natural talent. They were the result of disciplined training, mental preparation, and relentless focus. She had learned to balance patience with action, observation with execution, and humility with confidence. The bond between her and her mentor had grown into mutual respect and trust. She knew she could push herself further, and he knew she was ready for challenges that would demand everything she had learned. The world outside remained unaware of her growing abilities. To most, she was still the quiet woman at the shooting range, unassuming and unnoticed. But those who had seen her train in secret knew that she was extraordinary. Her shots were precise, her focus unwavering, and her determination unmatched. The skills she had cultivated would soon be revealed in a way that would shock those who had underestimated her. For now, she continued to train, perfect and prepare, knowing that the moment to demonstrate her full potential would come. And when it did, no one would forget it. The day of the challenge arrived quietly, almost like any other day, but she felt the weight of anticipation pressing against her chest. She had been training for months, each session with her mentor shaping her into someone few could imagine. Still, there was something about today that felt different. She would be stepping into a space where her skill would finally meet the scrutiny of others, a test of everything she had learned, and she knew it. The venue was a local shooting competition, a modest event, but with enough attention to make her nervous. She arrived early, carrying only her rifle and the quiet confidence she had built over months of secret training. Around her, other competitors were talking loudly, joking, and showing off. They were confident, some even cocky, and they clearly underestimated her. She ignored them, focusing on the familiar rhythm of preparation, checking her rifle, adjusting her sights, and centering herself mentally. Her mentor was watching from a distance, a quiet observer. He had prepared her for this moment not only physically but mentally. He knew the competition would be a distraction, with noise, pressure, and eyes watching every move. Yet he also knew that she was ready to demonstrate the skill, patience, and precision that had been developed in the shadows of practice sessions. The first round of the competition began. Competitors were required to hit stationary targets at varying distances. Many relied on speed and brute confidence, rushing their shots to impress the audience. She, on the other hand, moved deliberately. Every action was measured, from setting her stance to drawing her breath. When she fired, each shot landed dead center. The precision was quiet, almost unnoticed at first because she did not make a show of it. Still, those who watched closely began to murmur in surprise. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the energy of the others. Next came a more difficult challenge. Moving targets were introduced, some small, some at longer distances. The crowd grew excited, but she remained focused. Her mind calculated trajectory, timing, wind, and her own breathing in a way that seemed effortless. Competitors missed their shots in the rush of excitement and noise, but she adjusted calmly, waiting for the perfect moment. When she fired, the targets reacted exactly as she had intended. Whispers grew louder among the audience as people began to notice that her skill was beyond ordinary. The final test was announced, and it was unlike anything they had encountered before. A small coin would be flipped into the air, and the task was to hit it mid-flight. The coin spun unpredictably, catching the light and moving in ways that required not just physical precision, but intense focus and anticipation. Competitors exchanged nervous glances, many stepping back, unsure of how to approach the challenge. She, however, did not hesitate. She set her stance, controlled her breathing, and watched the coin with the patience she had learned from her mentor. Her thoughts were silent, but her calculations were precise. The lessons from months of secret training, the control, the observation, the anticipation, culminated in this moment. She raised her rifle, adjusted slightly for the angle, and waited for the perfect opening. The world seemed to slow around her. She fired. The coin split perfectly in midair. The reaction was immediate. Gasps echoed through the venue. People froze, unable to comprehend what they had just seen. The competitors were speechless, some dropping their jaws, others looking at each other in disbelief. She did not react. Her calm exterior remained as if the event were routine, though inside she felt a quiet thrill. Her mentor's eyes shone with pride, knowing that the months of preparation had paid off in this single extraordinary moment. The crowd's chatter turned into murmurs of awe. Many tried to rationalize what they had seen, some assuming luck, others thinking it must have been staged. Yet no one could deny the skill and precision that had made the shot possible. She walked away from the platform as if nothing had happened, her posture steady, her mind already processing the next step. She had proven herself, but she knew this was just the beginning. The competitors approached her, hesitant and amazed. Some asked questions, Others congratulated her quietly, still trying to grasp how someone so unassuming could possess such remarkable talent. She responded politely, never boasting, keeping the focus on the process rather than the outcome. Her humility, paired with her skill, only deepened the intrigue around her. People could not reconcile the quiet, composed young woman with the extraordinary marksman they had witnessed. Behind the scenes, her mentor spoke with her briefly. He emphasized the importance of maintaining composure, of understanding that skill was not about the applause but the ability to perform when it mattered. He reminded her that the world would start to notice, but the true measure of mastery was in consistency, focus, and the quiet confidence that came from preparation. She absorbed his words, understanding that her journey was far from over, and that the recognition she received now was only a stepping stone. She left the competition, her mind calm despite the excitement around her. The experience had been a test not just of skill, but of patience, mental focus, and discipline. She reflected on how far she had come, from quiet, overlooked observer to someone capable of extraordinary precision under pressure. Her training had transformed her, instilling a sense of control and clarity that extended beyond the shooting range. In the following days, the story of her coin-splitting shot spread quietly at first through whispers and online posts. People speculated, tried to understand, and some even doubted the authenticity. Yet those who had witnessed it firsthand knew that she was no ordinary shooter. The experience gave her confidence, but also a deeper sense of responsibility. She understood that her skill was a tool, one that required patience, focus, and ethical use. Her mentor had taught her this as well, ensuring that her abilities were grounded in discipline and respect. She continued her training, pushing herself further. The challenges became more complex, and her mentor introduced scenarios that tested her adaptability, mental focus, and problem-solving under pressure. Each exercise strengthened not only her shooting, but her decision-making and observation skills. She learned to anticipate outcomes, remain calm under stress, and execute flawlessly even in unpredictable situations. Every session reinforced the principles she had internalized over months of dedication. Her daily life reflected the changes within her. She noticed small details others overlooked, anticipated situations with clarity, and approached challenges methodically. Her confidence grew, not as arrogance but as quiet assurance in her abilities. She knew that her journey was far from over, that each moment of success was simply a marker on the path to further mastery. She carried the lessons of the competition with her, understanding that skill was only meaningful when paired with patience, discipline, and ethical application. Her mentor, observing her progress, knew she was ready for more advanced challenges, the kind that would test the limits of her abilities. The coin-splitting shot had been a milestone, a demonstration of what was possible when skill met preparation and focus. Yet he reminded her that mastery was ongoing, a journey rather than a destination. Each lesson, each challenge, was a building block for the future, shaping her into someone capable of extraordinary achievements. The experience also taught her about perception and underestimation. People had judged her based on appearances, assuming quiet and calm meant lack of skill. She learned that true capability often lies beneath the surface, unnoticed until revealed by action. This lesson reinforced her humility and focus, reminding her to continue honing her abilities without seeking immediate validation or recognition. Even as attention began to grow around her remarkable shot, she remained grounded. She trained diligently, reflected thoughtfully, and maintained her composure. Her mentor's guidance, combined with her own dedication, created a foundation that was both strong and flexible. She was no longer the quiet observer at the range. She had become a practitioner of skill, discipline, and focus, ready to face challenges that few could imagine. The day of the competition marked a turning point, but it was only one of many milestones on her journey. She had demonstrated extraordinary precision and calm under pressure, capturing the attention of those who witnessed it. Yet she understood that true mastery required ongoing effort, continuous learning, and a commitment to the principles she had internalized. Each moment of success was a reminder of the work behind it, the countless hours of practice, and the guidance of her mentor who had believed in her potential from the beginning. As she walked away from the range that day, she felt a mixture of satisfaction and anticipation. She had proven something significant, not just to others but to herself. Yet she knew that greater challenges lay ahead, challenges that would test her skills, focus, and discipline in new ways. The journey continued, fueled by dedication, patience, and the quiet confidence that came from knowing she was prepared for whatever came next. Her story was just beginning, and the world had no idea what she was truly capable of. The moment after the coin-splitting shot was electric, though she felt no rush of triumph. She had trained for this, practiced for this, and executed it with the calm precision that had become second nature. Around her, the crowd erupted into astonishment, people pointing, whispering, and trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. The competitors who had once looked at her with dismissive smiles now stared in disbelief. The quiet woman they had overlooked had just done something almost impossible. She lowered her rifle slowly, her movements controlled and deliberate. She felt a steady rhythm in her heartbeat, a quiet affirmation that her months of training had prepared her for this exact moment. Her mentor, standing at a distance, gave a slight nod, pride clear in his eyes. He had watched her transform from a quiet observer into a skilled marksman, capable of performing under intense pressure. The shot had not just demonstrated her physical skill, but her mental discipline, focus, and patience. Spectators leaned closer, some trying to capture the moment on their phones, others simply frozen in awe. Many whispered among themselves, questioning whether what they had seen was real. Some assumed luck, some assumed trickery. But deep down, those who paid attention recognized the depth of skill behind the shot. It was precise, almost surgical, and no ordinary shooter could achieve it. Yet she said nothing. Her composure remained as if this display were merely part of her practice. The competitors approached her hesitantly. One by one, they asked questions, tried to gauge her method, or expressed astonishment. She responded politely, never revealing more than necessary. Her focus was not on impressing others, but on maintaining the clarity of mind that had carried her through the challenge. She had learned that skill was best shown through action, not words, and that humility was as important as precision. Her mentor finally walked over to her, his expression calm but filled with pride. He reminded her that the real lesson was not in the applause or the shock of others, but in the control she had exercised, the decisions she had made under pressure, and the discipline she had maintained throughout. He emphasized that moments like this were rare, but the mindset that allowed her to succeed could be applied anywhere, in any situation that required focus, patience, and calm under pressure. She listened intently, understanding that the shot was significant, but the training and preparation behind it were far more important. After the event, she stepped away from the crowd and found a quiet corner. She allowed herself a moment to reflect, to breathe, and take in the significance of what had just happened. Months of secret training, countless hours of focus, and the guidance of her mentor had all led to this point. She understood that the world would start to notice, but she also knew that her journey was far from complete. The coin-splitting shot was a milestone, a proof of capability, but it was only a part of a much larger path. In the days that followed, attention around the event grew. Stories spread about the quiet, unassuming woman who had performed the impossible. People speculated, analyzed, and debated how such precision could be achieved. Social media posts circulated images and videos, some praising, others questioning, but all intrigued by her skill. She remained focused, refusing to let the sudden attention distract her from continued practice and improvement. Her mentor reminded her that recognition was fleeting, but mastery was lasting. She continued her training with renewed intensity. The mentor introduced more complex scenarios, testing her adaptability and her ability to maintain calm under unpredictable conditions. Some exercises simulated moving targets with unpredictable patterns, requiring split-second calculations and precise execution. Others introduced environmental challenges such as wind, elevation changes, and variable light. Each session reinforced her ability to remain focused, calculate with precision, and execute flawlessly even in high-pressure situations. She had learned to trust herself, her instincts, and the training that had brought her this far. Beyond the physical skill, she began to focus more on strategy and anticipation. Her mentor encouraged her to observe patterns, predict outcomes, and make decisions with both patience and speed. These exercises were mentally exhausting, but they built a foundation of clarity and confidence that was unmatched. She began to see not just targets, but the world around them, the subtle shifts, the tiny clues that indicated what was coming next. Her ability to anticipate rather than simply react set her apart from others, and prepared her for challenges beyond the shooting range. Her daily life reflected the growth she had achieved. Tasks that once seemed simple now held layers of observation and analysis. She noticed the smallest movements, predicted outcomes in conversations, and approached challenges with deliberate calm. The skills she had cultivated in her secret training had become a part of her, shaping her perspective, her focus, and her sense of self. She understood that true mastery was not about recognition, but about the quiet, consistent application of skill and discipline in every moment. Her mentor continued to guide her, emphasizing lessons beyond marksmanship. He taught her about patience, ethics, and responsibility. A marksman's skill was powerful, but it needed to be tempered with judgment and respect. He shared stories from his own past, highlighting situations where calm, calculated decisions had made all the difference. She absorbed these lessons, understanding that skill without wisdom could be dangerous, while discipline combined with judgment created true mastery. As the months passed, her reputation began to grow quietly. Observers at the range whispered about her precision. Competitors took notice, and some even sought her advice. Yet she remained grounded. Recognition had never been her goal. The pursuit of skill and self-discipline had always been her driving force. She continued to practice, refine, and challenge herself, knowing that each step built a foundation for even greater achievements. Occasionally, she reflected on the coin-splitting shot and the sudden attention it had brought. It was a moment of proof, a demonstration of capability, but she never allowed it to define her. The real transformation had happened long before. In the quiet hours of practice, the meticulous observation, the guidance of her mentor, and the internal discipline she had cultivated. She understood that true mastery was invisible to the casual observer, and that moments of recognition were fleeting compared to the ongoing journey of growth and learning. Her mentor often reminded her that each challenge she faced was an opportunity to refine not just skill, but mindset. The coin-splitting shot had tested her precision, but the next challenges would test her adaptability, decision-making, and composure. She embraced this perspective, knowing that every exercise, every scenario, and every session contributed to her development as both a marksman and a disciplined individual. The experience also deepened her understanding of the relationship between skill and perception. People had judged her based on appearances, assumptions, and stereotypes. Her quiet demeanor had led many to underestimate her, yet her actions revealed the depth of her capabilities. This lesson resonated beyond the range. She understood that patience, preparation, and consistent effort could overcome assumptions and expectations, a principle that applied in every aspect of life. The journey was far from over. Each day presented new opportunities to challenge herself, refine her abilities, and expand her understanding of precision, patience, and focus. She had learned to balance calmness with decisiveness, humility with confidence, and observation with action. The coin-splitting shot had been a defining moment, but the lessons behind it, the discipline, the mental preparation, and the quiet confidence were the true markers of her progress. Her mentor remained a steady presence, offering guidance, insight, and challenges designed to push her limits. He encouraged her to continue observing, analyzing, and executing with precision. He reminded her that recognition was temporary, but skill, discipline, and wisdom were enduring. She embraced this perspective, knowing that her journey was not about applause or accolades, but about becoming the best version of herself, capable of extraordinary precision, judgment, and focus. The world had started to notice, but she remained grounded, focused, and determined. Each day, each training session, each moment of reflection strengthened her abilities and her mindset. The coin-splitting shot had revealed her potential to others, but the quiet work, the internal growth, and the ongoing dedication were the true story. She understood that mastery was a lifelong pursuit, and she was ready to continue the journey, confident in the skills, discipline, and mindset she had developed, knowing that even greater challenges and achievements awaited.